More than half the country now in lockdown, 18 months into the pandemic. It's a sorry state we're in, isn't it?
It's particularly depressing, no question about that. If you're a small business operator, it's pretty sad because there's no customers flowing. We know the economy's strong. We saw that a number of weeks ago with unemployment down to 4.9%. So the fundamentals are excellent. Just need to get through this bit.
You're powerless to stop these lockdowns, but do you believe, and let's go to South Australia here, after 5 cases, only one new one today, 6 cases, was that necessary?
We'll leave that to the premiers. They're responsible and they're accountable. They're dealing with their health professionals on this, and they've made decisions about that. Our job in the federal parliament is to provide as much support as we can to continue the vaccine rollout, 10.3 million Australians so far, 35% of the country, and also to provide assistance and payments where necessary. But we'll back the states and territories in. We're all in this together. It's a bit of a Team Australia moment at present.
Yeah, but until your vaccination levels get to a certain point, this stop-start system that we are in at the moment is going to continue, isn't it? Quite possibly until the end of the year.
I fear it'll continue in the short term. The Prime Minister has rolled out 4 stages. We're in stage 1. Stage 2, of course, starts when the vaccine levels are raised. And with 1 million Australians being vaccinated a week, I think we'll see this happen quicker than we think. Yeah,
but I mean, for the next few months at least, it's going to continue. These lockdowns are going to continue. So how on earth do small businesses survive in a climate like this when they can't plan?
This is why the Prime Minister announced the small to medium business support payment, which will kick in from week 3 on any lockdown. Of course, there's the pandemic disaster payments, which are kicking in at week 2, but in arrears, literally from day 1. And they're flowing in their 50, 60 thousands a day. And the first tranche of the small to medium business support payments, of course, are rolling out in New South Wales. And the Prime Minister's made it very clear. This is available for all Australians with a 50-50 from the Commonwealth with the state governments. And we're prepared to step in with any state that requires that support on that same basis as we're doing with New South Wales.
But when it comes to those individual payments of some $600 a week for those who lose more than 20 hours, I mean, how do you survive on $600 when you've got a family to feed and mortgage payments to make?
The $600 a week, of course, was in line with the final part of JobKeeper, so it's completely consistent with what we did last year. And of course, the small to medium business payment is all about 40% of payroll from $1,500 to $10,000. So the supports are consistent. They've been consistent since the middle of last year coming forward. And they'll be in place and they'll be there, and Australians can rely on them because the federal government will step in to ensure we take and carry our load on that.
Tough to survive on that though, isn't it?
It's always difficult when the state, by virtue of their lockdowns, takes away many of your capacities for livelihood, absolutely.
Yes, that's the lockdowns that your government supports though too, right?
We're all in this together, and there's no point, and Australians don't want to see government squabbling. They don't want to see dissension. They want to see everyone pulling together. The states are responsible for their public health orders, and they're responsible for making those decisions. The best the federal government can do is step in beside them, alongside them, to support Australians.
Okay.
And that, we think, is the best response here.
JobKeeper pumped $1 billion a week into the New South Wales economy. The current package is $500 million. This is a deeper lockdown with construction paused at the moment. So is your government ruling out any further support?
We've never played the rule in, rule out game, if you like. We've always responded as the next curveball got thrown at us. There's no playbook, unfortunately. I wish I had one for COVID-19. So we'll just respond as required. And if something else comes up, the federal government will step in and respond again. And we have to be that dynamic. We've got to be that agile because things are taking a change all the time.
Okay, sounds like you're open to it.
We're open to providing whatever needs to be done to whatever curveball gets thrown to us. You saw that last week with the last set of announcements where the pandemic disaster payment was increased to $600 and $375, depending upon hours worked. You saw that with the small to medium enterprise support package we've put in place, up to 40% of payrolls. And we'll continue to provide support where we need to, because we're not through this yet, but we've got to do it together.
Okay, what about JobKeeper 3.0? Is that possible?
Well, that's what the small to medium enterprise support package does, exactly that. At 40% of payroll from $1,500 to $10,000, in line with the disaster pandemic payment for individuals at $600, those two together provides that support.
But what about getting back to the original levels of JobKeeper, though? Is that possible? I mean, Labor, we had Jason Clare on my show yesterday. He's talking about wanting those payments to be increased from $600 to $750. That's in line with the original part of JobKeeper. Is that possible?
Oh, you'll never outspend the Labor Party. They'll always say payments should be higher, penalties should be higher.
Should it be higher, though? Should it be increased?
This was the same Labor Party that said that when JobKeeper came out, it'd be a disaster, yet we saw one of the greatest job growths in the OECD. So Labor's all whinge and all noise at present. We've lined up the payments at $600 in line with where we took JobKeeper to as we took it down from its glide path of $1,500. And that's appropriate because JobKeeper was designed to put the economy into hibernation. These measures are designed to support these short, sharp lockdowns.
But is it possible? Is it possible to increase it from $600 to $750?
Well, we started, of course, with the disaster pandemic payment at $500 and $325. In response to what we're seeing now, we've increased it to $600 per week for those who've lost over 20 hours and $375 for 8 to 20 hours. So I think we've nailed this about the midpoint of where the glide path from JobKeeper was, and I think it's about right.
OK, but is it possible to increase it again?
Keeping in mind, you've got job seeker payments at $620, so you've got to be consistent right across the board as much as possible, which is why we've landed in the place we have.
But is it a yes or a no that this payment could increase again above $600 for those who miss out on more than 20 hours a week of work, which gets in line with the original part of the original JobKeeper?
Well, JobKeeper, of course, had a glide path down from $1,500 down to $1,000. We've nailed the small to medium enterprise support payment at $1,200 across a fortnight, $600 per week, which we believe is the right spot for now.
OK, I'm running out of time, but just one final one. Can you give us the scoop on the Olympic Games? Is Brisbane getting it or what?
If I was a betting man, and I'm not, I'd be putting my money on Queensland. Queensland always comes through.
Stuart Robert, appreciate your time.